Specifically coming to the conference this year, I think had a renewed focus on LiveRamp's position in the industry, being kind of, as they've called themselves, the Switzerland of helping us to solve the post-cookie world challenge and addressability in a world that's no longer going to be dependent upon third-party cookies.
So you spend your time obviously deep in the weeds of programmatic executions and planning. What does the death of cookie mean for your job day to day, for your clients, for what Digitas does in this space?
Yeah, I think over the next 2 years, we're going to see it completely change the foundation upon which our ecosystem is built. As the third-party cookie goes away, as the real lifeblood of our industry, we need to really rethink about how we approach all sorts of media types, but also the way we really activate in programmatic especially. So it's not, exclusively the death knell of programmatic, but it really is a moment for us to pause and consider where we want to go and how we got here. And I think that's a really important piece, the how we got here, because I think a lot of the solutions, we're seeing a flurry of them, are really focused on just supplementing what we had with the third-party cookie, but I actually believe that's the wrong approach. I think what we need to do is think about what got us here, which is, really deteriorating consumer trust, letting technology run and kind of inform how we market to people, as opposed to the other way around. And so I think it's all about taking a step back. Google gave us 2 years to all take a pause and think about where we want to go and how we get there. And so that's what we're spending most of our time doing.
What would you like to see happening at an industry-wide level in that 2-year space we've got? What is the next step from your point of view?
So I think the next step is all about addressability in a smart and responsible way. Addressability that is likely going to decrease in scale, but is going to increase in impact, and is actually going to allow us to build more trust with consumers versus, again, being maniacal about chasing them down the funnel. I also see the regrowth and rebirth of contextual and really thinking about moments, not just people. We got so focused on chasing just the right cookie, the right person, the right user, and finding them that we forgot to care about what moment they're in. Are they in the right mindset? Are they actually amenable to that type of advertising and that type of conversation and relationship building with brands at that moment in time? And also, what creative are we showing them? Again, we're so focused on chasing that we really didn't focus on, based on who they are and where they are and what moment and context they're in, what's the right message to actually convince them to take action.
So given those sorts of trends, where do you think your clients will be looking to spend more money? And where do you think they'll be pulling back from?
I think that all that said, and in the context of the political climate we're in, I think we're going to continue to see a shift towards trusted, really premium publishers. I think what we need to forget, or to make sure we don't forget, is that some of the long tail is quality, is premium, and that size and scale doesn't equal quality and safety. So I think that is really incumbent upon the industry to focus, yes, on those premium publishers who have gone out and gotten consent from their viewers, their readers, their listeners, but also to remember that there's a lot of quality in the long tail and figure out how to find that and capitalize on it.
So I'm guessing you spend a lot of time looking at publisher first-party data strategies.
Sure.
How much variation do you see in those strategies?
I think we're in early days of those strategies. I think for a while, publishers were really just applying third-party data in the same way we could on the advertiser side, and they were applying that in a way that they could either sell their impressions for a higher CPM or command more premium value based on reaching a certain audience. But I think that they hadn't yet figured out how to really dig in and monetize based on what they uniquely know about a consumer. And what people consume, what they read, what they view, what they watch, the amount of time spent, what times of the day they're spending looking at their content is all valuable, really rich signals. And I think publishers are just starting to figure out how to capture those. And of course, next will be how to monetize on them. So I think there is a lot of differences in the way they're each approaching it. And I think a lot of value in different pockets, but I think there is no standard approach just yet.
Okay, and obviously you also deal with lots of different clients. How much variation do you see in the way that clients are planning to navigate through this changed terrain?
It's a very good question. I think there is a lot of kind of pause and wait to figure out how we best move forward from where we are today. I think there is definitely a variability in different ways that clients are approaching it, and they're largely dependent upon how reliant they are on their first-party data. If they're purely prospectors, this actually isn't that big of a deviation away from where they've been. Also, size and scale. And then I think risk tolerance is another thing that we're seeing really impact how clients are approaching this new landscape, because while we all talk about the surface, the cookie going away, that's the symptom, not the illness, and the illness is eroding trust. And so those brands that are much more focused on maintaining consumer trust, which hopefully they all are to some extent, are the ones who are really digging in deep.
And within this context then, a final few thoughts from you. How do you see identity fitting into this landscape? What role does identity resolution play, both from the buy side and the sell side, from your point of view?
So identity is, of course, identity is critical. In order for us to reach people, we need to know who they are and where they are, and that identity needs to move away from a non-persistent, really eroding world to a place of persistence. I think who owns identity is still up for grabs. I think that, from a industry perspective, obviously LiveRamp has a lot of solutions, and their, kind of independent approach is one that we admire in helping keeping the ecosystem alive, because the alternative right now is the walled gardens, and I think there's a lot of risk for us really putting too much emphasis in the Googles and Facebooks and Amazons of the world. But I do think that identity is still being sorted out, and ownership of that identity is really could be an independent partner like LiveRamp. I also think that the browsers have a role in identity, especially as they're the ones kind of dictating some of the rules of the road. And then of course I think publishers and brands have a role in identity, and going along with a role in identity means a role in consent gathering and management.